My friends, we have waited many long months, but the day has finally arrived. Untitled Goose Game is here. Considering the gravity of this occasion, I find it only appropriate that I give it the same treatment I gave the previous most important game on the Switch, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So without further ado, I present to you, my wonderful viewers, my 3-hour-long review of Untitled Goose Game. What? It's only like 10 minutes long? Oh, never mind. Two notes before we get started. One, many thanks to House for providing me with a review copy. That was super nice of you. I'm very pleased. Two, to show you too much of this game and its various solutions would be to spoil too much of the fun, so I'm going to do things a little differently for this review. Normally, my written reviews are tightly edited, but I'm just going to show you footage of me in the first area, completing a few challenges, but also just sort of messing around and showing you how it plays and some of the environment and the different stuff you can do. So, let's get to it. Geese are kind of awful. Sometimes they're mean and they bite, and the squonk noise they make is really dumb. So when Untitled Goose Game was first announced, I was immediately enthralled by the concept. An entire game where you play as a goose and you get to just mess up everyone's day. I could not get my hands on it fast enough, and the year-long wait has been downright agonizing. I'm not even kidding either. This is legit been one of my most highly anticipated games in recent memory. When you start playing, it's immediately obvious how much care was put into how the goose moves. The way it waddles, the way its head moves around, everything perfectly captures the personality of a goose. And since geese are dumb, hilarious birds, even just walking around and performing basic functions makes me laugh. You've got a button to sprint, and this makes turning very slow, so you've got to learn exactly when to use it. There's a button for grabbing objects and putting them down, which is obviously pretty helpful, pretty integral to the experience. There's a button just for honking, because of course there is, and this can be used to startle people or get their attention. Then on the triggers, you've got one command to lower the goose's head so you can duck under stuff and grab small items from the ground, and then one to spread your wings, which mostly just seems to be for making yourself look that much more like a goose, I guess. These basic actions allow you to interact with the world around you, and by that I mean wreak havoc on the happy denizens of this peaceful, idyllic village. In each area, you're given a checklist of various things to accomplish. Stealing a certain object, making a certain person do something, getting a certain event to happen in a certain way. You always get a collection quest too. Gather up specific items and bring them to the right place. And this core gameplay, with its goal-oriented structure, is delightful. The whole concept is incredibly novel, one of those rare gameplay experiences that feels really new. If you had to pick a single genre, you might say it's a stealth game, but it's also a bit of a puzzler, and it's very much like one big toy box. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of critical thinking. In fact, once I passed the first area, I wandered around the second one for probably 20 minutes at least before I crossed even one goal off my list. You've really got to try interacting with each item and observe the patterns of the humans. There are tons of different interactions to see and create, and in many cases, there are multiple ways to go about solving a problem. It's this slight open-endedness and the variety of mechanics that makes the gameplay so refreshing, I think. It's got this really fun feel to it that made me savor every moment of the game, even when I was stuck trying to figure out what to do. I've played a lot of adventure games and the like where too many solutions end up being a little too obtuse, causing frustration and making me want to look up the answers, but I never got that with Untitled Goose Game. I love staring at problems in games, pondering them, puzzling them out, experimenting, really taking my time, and very rarely did my confusion edge its way toward frustration in this case, if at all. And I must say, the game's humor lifts the whole experience up even higher. Like I said, the goose is just hilarious, and all the ways you can mess up people's days and the ways they respond to you, it had me laughing out loud on several occasions. Most of the stuff you can do serves some sort of purpose toward meeting your goals, but every once in a while you can be horrible just to be horrible. And I found these moments exquisitely funny. I mean, the very first part of the game gives you a pond with someone's lunch right next to it and invites you to just throw it all in for no reason. I jumped at the opportunity to essentially roleplay as the goose and just cause as much sadness as I could the whole time. The presentation further bolsters the experience. The game uses a simple but elegant cell shading style with a very soft palette of colors. It really captures the serenity and beauty of this little village, which makes the presence of such a horrible, destructive goose that much funnier. The world is completely seamless, so every area is connected, which really heightens that sandboxy feel. In fact, unless you purposefully reset, all items seem to stay exactly the way you left them without respawning, even if you cross the whole map and come back again. The game runs beautifully with no stutters or hiccups of any kind, and the same goes for Handheld Mode, which complements the slow, sometimes ponderous nature of the gameplay particularly well, I might add. Perhaps the best part about the presentation, though, is the music. The entire game is scored by a single piano, which slips effortlessly between elegance and plunky comedy. Plenty of games feature music that changes based on the player's actions, but this might just be the best example I have ever seen. It follows along so perfectly and effortlessly that I doubt you would get a better result by watching a recording of the gameplay and scoring it outright. It's flawless, and I feel like it wraps up the whole experience neatly. You have this experimental, puzzly gameplay, which is made all the more satisfying because of the inherent humor, which is made all the more funny because of the excellent score, which is all the more effective because of how it complements the excellent gameplay, etc. It all just comes together to form an overall experience that you can tell was crafted very carefully and with a lot of love. Alright, I've been gushing enough about this game that there's gotta be a catch, right? Well, I'm very sad to say that, yeah, there kinda is. Even from the first trailers, this game screamed very charming and very good, but very short. It's just the vibe it gave off, you know? That's how indie games like this always seem to be. But even going into the game expecting this, it still felt short. It took me about 4 hours to beat, and a good amount of that was spent wandering around, unsure of how to solve a problem. There are very few main areas, and before you know it, you'll find yourself in the last one on your way through the ending sequence, which I must say, by the way, no spoilers, but it's really excellent. It's just over so fast that it feels a little like the rug is pulled out from under you. And it's the eternal struggle with creative, artsy indie games, isn't it? It's a problem we have to face all too often. When the experience is really wonderful, how much is too much to pay for it? How many hours long will it need to be to justify such and such a price? If it's that fun, then you can't put a price on that, but at the same time, there has to be a limit. Should I wait until it's on sale? Oh, but it looks like so much fun, I don't want to wait. But what if I buy it now and I don't end up liking it enough after all and I regret buying it anyway? It's tough, and at the end of the day, I can't answer those questions for you. But I can tell you that, very fortunately, more gameplay does open up after the credits roll. Part of me feels like this might be a slight spoiler, but I think it's important to know if you're on the fence about the game. When you beat it, you get multiple pages of new tasks to accomplish, many of which are extra tricky, and some of which require items and people from different areas interacting with each other. For each main area, you're also tasked with completing all your objectives before the church bell rings, which is essentially a series of time trials. While none of this is quite as satisfying as heading into a new area of the main game the first time through, at the very least, it's sure to add a few hours to the total playtime, and I'm very much thankful for that. Plus, if at the end you're left looking back at the time you already spent and lamenting that it's all over, it's a great way to re-explore the game world and mix its various elements in new ways. In the end, Untitled Goose Game features a specific style of gameplay for a specific kind of person. It can be slow, and again, it can take a lot of patience. You've got to be interested in not just playing it, but playing with it, taking your time to learn it and to try coming at problems from different angles. And yeah, it's short. There's something to be said for a very condensed gaming experience that doesn't overstay its welcome with unneeded padding, but at the same time, it is possible to stop too soon and leave the player wanting too much more. I tell you though, the time I did get to spend with Untitled Goose Game, I just loved it. I loved it so much. I'm gonna try to avoid playing it again for a good long while so that maybe I'll forget some of the solutions and I can enjoy it again later, But even if that doesn't work, I can at least say I adored the experience the first time around. I got to play a demo of the game at an indie event at Nintendo HQ last year, and those 5 or 10 minutes I spent in the starting area were heaven. The gameplay was just that good. It hooked me that strongly. And now I can officially say that that magic feeling did hold all the way through for the most part. That same novelty and delightfulness lasted for the duration of my time with it. Probably because it's about a goose. I mean, look at this. You're a goose. Look at his dumb little face. It's incredible. Untitled Goose Game will not be an unscored Goose Game, for I give it a 6 out of 7. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to head down to the comments and share your own experiences with horrible geese, or perhaps what you hate most about them, like maybe the slobber. Why on earth would a bird slobber? Anyway, you have a good one, and don't let the goose bite you on the way out. That's a good one. I'm gonna start using that.